Imagine this for me. You wake up at 6 a.m., you go take a piss, you go drink some water. All things are all good in the world. I'm trying to fall back asleep, so I'm thinking, okay, let's put on a YouTube video, let's go back to sleep. And I see this monstrosity.
The origin of the Philippines according to the Bible. Now, a lot of you guys have sent this over to me because there are so many different variations to the origin of the Philippines, scientifically, of course, and then also according to the Bible. So you guys linked this over and said, hey, this will show a little insight on just what the Bible showed as well. So check it out, Vision. It'll be really interesting for you to see that and also share it. So, hey, come join me, please. Let's go.
And I felt like it was my calling to answer to this video. Hey there. I hope you're having a good day. If you have the time, you can listen to me talk about some misinformation on this YouTube video. This is by a YouTuber called Vision. His name is Gabriel Silva. I believe he also makes music. I have never seen any of his other YouTube videos. I don't know what character he has outside of this one, but this is the only one we're talking about. He seems to be mixed with Filipino, so that's cute, and he makes a lot of content surrounding Filipinos. This video did inspire something in me, perhaps, maybe something biblical almost. Apparently, this video is supposed to go into the biblical origins of the Philippines. If you're sitting there thinking, hey, how can the Bible foretell how the Philippines is going to be created when the Bible was finished and done way before the islands that are the Philippines came together? I'm in the same boat. I was wondering what does the Bible say about the Philippines, if it says anything about the Philippines? And so I'm trying to listen to it. I start feeling a pit in my stomach. The first pit is I thought we stopped making reaction videos in which we just let the video play for 80% of the runtime. I thought we stopped doing that in 2015, but I guess not. So he's not really adding much to the conversation, but when he would comment, it's very interesting. Let's get into it.
The Bible tells us that after the great flood, Noah's 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, repopulated the earth, Genesis 10. Each son became the forefather of different peoples and nations. Some scholars and historians propose that the Filipino people, with their diverse roots, could be linked to both Japheth and Ham, 2 of these patriarchs.
Apparently, there's a possibility that Filipinos are a descendant of Japheth and Ham. My thing is, if you believe in the Bible, how is it special that anyone is descendants of these 3 men, Shem, Japheth, and Ham? How is that anything extraordinary? Aren't we all supposed to be their descendants? So I'm already baffled because he's making a big deal, right? And it's hilarious how the video tries to imply that there's some kind of connection between Japheth and Ham and the Philippines. The reason that this is baffling, that we have to look to the Bible for where Filipinos' cultural, ethnic, and seemingly phenotypical differences is that before the Philippines was colonized and called the Philippines, it housed a disparate group of people such as Arabic people, Indian people, the Idas, native Chinese people. It was a trade route for a lot of different types of people to stay. Some of those people might stay and create a life for themselves. Those populations, along with native groups of what we would now call Filipinos or Austronesians, lived in the area. And some may have intermarried and such, but this was so long ago that it would be very difficult to genealogically connect us to those people back then. But depending on where you're from and how well you know your own heritage, you might know of your ancestors who are mixed, potentially. We didn't need Japheth and Ham to explain this, unfortunately. I'm also not sure how the 3 brothers could have repopulated the earth anyways, just from marrying, like, the same women and giving, like, the same women kids. But, I'm just not going to question that before I go crazy. It is kind of cute, I suppose, to try and connect yourself to these descendants. But, see, ancient Israelites weren't interested in keeping history. They were interested in creating a story in which God is involved. So whereas a modern person would think, I have this mountain here, I'm going to think about the history of this mountain. I know that this mountain came about because of tectonic plates rubbing together. You know, we know the scientific explanation behind a lot of things, and ancient Israelites didn't, which is why they want to connect their history as a people to the things around them. So if they see some kind of cute mountain, some wells, you know, pillars of sand, they like to connect these things to the god because it gives them some form of an explanation. It keeps saying that, like, scholars and historians keep thinking about these things and they have these hypotheses and they don't know who these things are referring to, and maybe it's Filipinos, we don't know. I highly doubt any historians and scholars, biblical ones I'm assuming are what they're referring to, are wasting any breath or energy thinking that these people are at all related to Filipinos. And I'm so sorry to be the one to break that to you, because unfortunately, biblical scholars and historians have to base their beliefs of the Bible according to what is in the Bible, the whole context of the Bible, as in where geologically it came from, what place, and where possibly these things could connect. They look at it from a perspective that is not biblical, let's just say. Even biblical scholars have to look at these things from a historical point of view to gain a better understanding, because as we see throughout the video, there are a lot of generalizations that can apply to many different countries, and we just use the most generous interpretations to kind of wiggle in the Philippines in there. But the Japheth and Ham descendants, that's already, we're all supposed to be their descendants, so why is it anything special, right?
And this would actually make a lot of sense because the scientist discovery, for example, with all the other stuff, in comparison to this, whichever one is, you know, the one you choose to believe, even with science being at the forefront, I feel like seeing something like this is really important, because no matter what you do believe, when you take in almost all the knowledge that is out there, especially with things like this, whether it be with the Bible or whether it be with science itself, you take in both. You don't just only pick and choose, and you kind of have this concoction of, like, you can know, you know, what could happen. God could come down right now and start talking to you, and you know what it is. If it turns out that it wasn't a science or it wasn't this, you know, things like that are very, very important to know. And I think it's crucial. I mean, me being in a Christian household, especially, like, I know a lot about the Bible, and I think it's very, very beautiful to understand everything. You know, like, and keep in mind, humans don't know everything. That's the beauty of it in itself. So
Vision says that he finds it important that we know or get into some kind of biblical history as well as scientific history. We have just history. There is no, like, scientific history. I'm assuming he means reality, which, great. Yeah, it is great to know what reality is, I suppose. You know, it's very interesting. This video, I think, is like AI generated, so I don't even have great expectations of it. But first of all, it keeps misspelling Ophir, Ophir, and it keeps saying it as different words throughout the video. But it reads 1 King 10:22.
1 Kings 10:22 tells us that King Solomon sent ships to Ophir every 3 years, bringing back gold, silver, ivory, and exotic animals. It was a land known for its unparalleled wealth, and Solomon's access to it added to the grandeur of his reign. For the king's ships went to Tarshish with the servants of Huram. Every 3 years they came back, bringing gold, silver, ivory, apes, and peacocks.
Trying to say that they traded gold and these things, and it might be the Philippines, you guys. Oh my god, Solomon was trading it with the Philippines. I hate to break his bubble, but the Philippines has no ivory. No ivory in the Philippines. Sorry, dude. As I'm editing, I looked more into it, and there do seem to be some theories online that Ophir could be the Philippines, but I'm not really seeing the scholarly studies or scholarly theorizing that I'm needing to see for it to be believable to me, let's just say. These are all rough years, but King Solomon's reign was during 900 BCE. It seemed like there was maybe an ivory trade around the 1500s to 1800s, perhaps, in the Philippines. That's still way after Solomon's reign, but I'm not really seeing this as anything other than conjecture. If you're reading the Bible and you want to find the Philippines inside the Bible, you could definitely find it if you're looking for it, it seems, because it was a trade route, and that's seemingly its only similarity to Ophir. It's very interesting, the phrasing of this video. He says pre-Hispanic Filipinos, and I just want to tackle this really quick because this wording implies a lot of things that are not true. First, not a lot of Filipinos are genetically or by heritage at all related to the Spanish colonizers. The Spaniards were not interested in really intermarrying with the Filipinos, let's just say. Like, I'm so sorry, but we're not pre-Hispanic and post-Hispanic. Hispanic is what you call Spanish people, and it kind of implies that the Spaniards colonizing the Philippines made us Hispanic. Absolutely not. That is not the case. They gave us these offshoot names. They took away the deities that the Filipinos already believed in. They gave us Christianity, and that's it. They wouldn't give us the nice, Spanish blood, though. Most of us are not at all related to Spanish people. Misconception right there.
The country's ancient maritime trade routes with India, Arabia, and China support the possibility that this Southeast Asian archipelago could have been a major trading partner during the time of Solomon.
That I 100%,
the idea
yeah.
of the Philippines as Ophir.
As the video goes on, and we're reading disparate Bible verses about nice trades, and Solomon's reign, and the Japheth and Ham, Vision says, like, yeah, 100%. With all of this evidence, yeah, we for sure could be talking about the Philippines, 100%. Unfortunately, this could be talking about most countries, and I know that it's nice to feel special. And I know that it's nice that if you're a Christian Filipino and you read this or you hear this, that you think, oh my God, I'm related to the Bible. I'm important. Filipinos are important regardless of if they're foretold within the Bible, and the expectation that the Bible foretells everything is also incredibly unfair on the ancient Israelites who were just writing things and trying to explain what is in their material world through ways that they could understand. And when we're looking at it with our modern lens and trying to see, oh my God, they're talking about the Philippines, we're projecting. There is what we're doing.
While there is no conclusive evidence that the Philippines is the biblical Ophir, the parallels in geography and historical trade routes make this theory worth exploring further.
The video then says that although there is no conclusive evidence, there's a possibility that this could be the Philippines. I mean, yeah, isn't that what all of religion is? There is no conclusive evidence, but there's a possibility. I guess that's what all of religion is, so I shouldn't really be surprised that it's being used in this way. But it still does blow my mind. Saying that there's no conclusive evidence, but there is like geography and trade routes, those could be evidence, mind you. But in the verses, they're so vague. They're just like Solomon got gold, peacocks, and ivory. It's quite vague, right? Because I believe these writers were just trying to big up Solomon because he's like a big guy within their history. I believe that's what these writers were trying to do with kings. I'm so sorry. A lot of this might even be speculation. We don't know if this is historical Solomon, to be honest with you. I'm so sorry to be the one to break that to you, but if you're really interested in what historians and scholars have to say.
Over 80% of its population is Catholic, a legacy of Spanish colonization, which brought the gospel to the islands in the 16th century.
The video just casually drops that colonization is what brought about Christianity. Like, that's just, that's fine, colonization brings about Christianity. Yeah, whatever. Cute.
Matthew 24:14 gives a clear prophecy about the gospel being preached to all nations before the end comes. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come.
Because Matthew records, I guess, that Jesus says that the gospel will be given everywhere in the nation, all throughout the world. That, this means that, the Philippines could be this prophecy, I guess, because we got colonized and given the gospel. Okay. The video says that in this context, it does seem like the Philippines is like this biblical prophecy. And like I said, I really do empathize with people's need and want and desire to feel seen, to feel represented, and Filipinos love feeling represented. When Filipinos see another Filipino in a movie or a show, or see another Filipino success, we are so happy for them. And I get that. I believe in that, even. But a lot of this is conjecture. A lot of this is us thinking these vague, disparate statements apply to us when they could apply equally to everywhere in the world. And maybe that's what's magical to people. It can apply everywhere to anyone. But if everywhere and everyone is involved, what makes it unique, the Bible can't talk about everyone and everywhere. Unfortunately, that's the truth. It doesn't try to, but we try to give it that meaning, and there can be beauty in that. But now we're just overlooking the fact that there was a violent colonization of the Philippines. Violence was brought about to Filipinos, changing our names, changing our language, changing what we already believed in, changing the way we dressed, changing our culture. And we're justifying that because the gospel. And that's okay. Just casually sprinkling in that colonization is what brought it about. That's gross. Now we're going to get into what I see as just pandering to Filipinos. He goes in, and maybe he's lived in the Philippines before. It seems like maybe he has, and he's been to Filipino churches.
I think the beauty of the Philippines really is how strong they are in that faith. I noticed that a lot. Especially when I went to the mall, and before I even went to the Philippines, for example, I remember seeing that there was like a church in the mall, and I thought that was like one of the coolest things because, you know that they are Christian, and you know that that is like a really powerful thing for them. And when you go yourself and you see it, it's honestly really, really like beautiful in a way because it's something that they're proud of, but yet they're not absolutely tearing you apart and asking you, hey, you better believe, right? It's more so they're very inclined to allow you to believe what you'd like. And on top of that, they're very, very empathetic in a way, and they allow just, your freedom, and they're not kind of throwing it on top of you because there is ones who do that, right? I've seen that before. And obviously being to church before too, I've seen people do that. There's different ways that some people go about it, and they take their beliefs to a certain extent in their own way, in their own light. And I think it is really, really just magical how the Philippines treats this and how they treat others when it comes to this. There's nothing too aggressive. There's nothing too crazy. It's just something that is almost just in them, in their hearts, to believe in God and to believe the things that they do. It's really, really beautiful, man. I just had to point that out.
He says that it's beautiful that Filipinos have this faith. It's in us. It's in our heart. But we're not forceful. We're not forceful. But I have seen some be forceful, but we're not forceful, but some are forceful, and some do that, but stop generalizing Filipinos, and stop generalizing Filipinos on the basis of religious beliefs, of all of that. Christianity and faith is in our hearts. Belief in God is in our hearts.
And the broader Asian continent suggests a possible connection.
And all of the combination too.
Connection to biblical lands like Ophir or Tarshish is speculative. Its Christian identity is undeniable.
Yeah, it's a fact.
Maybe this will explain and show why that's warped. If there was a video that was reading the Quran and applying that to the Philippines and said that the belief in Islam is written in our hearts, that would cause chaos. That would cause chaos. When in reality, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are all Abrahamic religions. A lot of what has been referenced so far, Muslims also believe in. And as the video goes on, I start noticing this kind of underlying anti-Muslim sentiment, and I start getting even more uncomfortable.
The Philippine diaspora, which is estimated to include more than 10 million people, can be seen as a modern-day missionary force, spreading the gospel in regions where traditional missionaries might struggle to gain access. The Filipino diaspora has brought Christianity to remote parts of the world, from the Middle East to Europe.
It's also very interesting that, the video says Filipinos do these amazing missionary works. They go to the corners of the earth that we just haven't reached, I guess. And it names, the Middle East and Europe. Okay, I guess we haven't reached those corners. But Europe actually reached us first by Spain, but the video says that, while at the same time, this man is trying to say that Filipinos would never force our faith. Ask Filipino children if Filipinos force the faith. They'll never tell you that Filipinos force any kind of faith. And like I said, stop generalizing Filipinos based on these things that aren't inherent characteristics of Filipinos. What is an inherent faith Christian heart? Kindness? Empathy? Love? Openness? Are these what we're talking about? If these are the qualities we're talking about, then there are times where they're lacking in the Bible. And that is what I believe we're trying to get out of this, is that a lot of the good Filipino traits are biblical and Christian. While at the same time, the video itself shows how Christianity has been forced upon Filipinos, which itself is violence, which in itself should be against Christianity. And that's the incredible hypocrisy and the incredible irony of it all, is that neither Vision nor this AI video biblical maker knows anything about Philippine history or cares in any way about how Filipinos can relate themselves to that history in a way that's just not perpetuating what the Spanish people want us to believe about ourselves.
Another significant element to consider is the Philippines' support for Israel. In Genesis 12:3, God promises to bless those who bless Israel. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you.
One of the grossest parts to me is he's reading Genesis 12:3, which is talking about how God is going to bless Israel. And biblical verses about Israel have been used by Zionists to justify why they're taking over and killing Palestinian people. That is gross. If you think that the Bible justifies that because it blesses Israel and curses anyone who is against Israel, who are supposed to be God's people, that is gross. Think about that.
The Philippines has a remarkable history of standing with Israel during critical moments in world history. During World War II, under President Manuel L. Quezon, the Philippines offered refuge to over 1,200 Jewish families fleeing the Holocaust, a move few nations were willing to make at the time. Later, in 1947, the Philippines was the only Asian nation to vote in favor of the UN resolution establishing the State of Israel, solidifying its friendship with the Jewish nation. This diplomatic and humanitarian support places the Philippines in alignment with God's promise to bless nations that stand with Israel.
And another thing, Jewish people are not synonymous with Israel as well. Just because Filipinos help Jewish people who are running away from Nazi Germany doesn't mean that the relations that the Philippines now has with Israel is this beautiful, wonderful thing. Yes, it was beautiful, absolutely, that we took in Jewish people at a time that no one would, but that is unrelated to Israel. Jewish people and Israel are not synonymous. A lot of Jewish people disagree with what Israel is doing right now, killing Palestinian people, taking over their land. A lot of Jewish people are not Zionists, and a lot of Jewish people don't believe God's land and God's people are Israelites, that they must take the gospel and give it to everyone and they must do these things. No. And Jewish people aren't even Christian. So it's very interesting that we conflate this like Christianity, God's people in the Bible, or Israeli, I guess. Talking about ancient Israelites, by the way, which Palestinians, modern day Palestinians, are also a part of what we would have been considered ancient Israelites at the time, but people like to ignore that because right now they are predominantly Muslim. And that's what I mean. The three are Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, but we treat Judaism and Christianity like they're this, like these beautiful relations. And I would love for that to be the case, but we are putting Muslim people and throwing them under the bus in comparison to this Israel is God's land and they're God's people kind of biblical narrative that was popularized after Christians wanted to take over Jewish land. If you want to know more about that, I'm going to link a video down below going a little bit into some history of Zionism so that you know more about that, because a lot of this, like I said, is conjecture, and it really furthers a dangerous message that we need to be in support of Israel, to be with God. We need to do these things, when right now the state of Israel is doing demonstrable damage to people. Same thing with the Spanish people that colonized the Philippines, demonstrable damage, and we're glad and happy because we get to have Christianity, when we lost so much of ourselves in the process.
This may signal a divine favor upon the Philippines that has lasting implications for the nation's role in the unfolding end-time events as we turn our eyes toward the future. Some speculate that the Philippines may play a more direct role in end-time prophecies.
He, in the beginning, in the end, and throughout the middle of the video kind of implied that it's kind of beautiful, these beliefs, right? And sure, they are beautiful, but these beliefs cause very real violence. We're not in this video just trying to speculate about what could be causing or leading to the Philippines biblically. The AI video is also very heavily implying that you have to be with the state of Israel to be God's people. That is gross. And Vision, you're nodding along with it. Vision actually gives props to the Filipino people for accepting Jewish people during World War II, and I give them props as well. That's a really wonderful thing. But the video has this underlying, like, yeah, because they did that, God's gonna bless the Philippines. And I think Filipinos and the Philippines have been waiting for God's blessing for way too long. And I think there is active unrest right now because a lot of young people in the Philippines are kind of disillusioned. We have a culture of waiting, I think. We have a culture of blessings will come. We'll get our blessings in heaven. We don't have to worry about the corrupt things going on in the world. We don't have to worry about our blessings will come. We signed the UN agreement in 1947, and I'm sure the Philippines have been blessed, but the Philippines have been equally just as cursed. So you tell me, stop promising God's blessings to people.
While it may not be explicitly named in the Bible, its geopolitical position and spiritual heritage may place it within the broader context of global events leading up to Christ's return. In Revelation 7:9, we read about a great multitude from every nation, tribe, and tongue worshipping before the throne of God. After this I looked, and there before me was a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, people, and language, standing before the throne and before the Lamb. Could the Philippines, with its global diaspora and powerful Christian witness, be part of this prophetic multitude?
And now we're reading Revelation, and now we're getting into the apocalyptic aspect of it all, where the video is talking about the end times. Apocalyptic beliefs were huge in ancient Israel, and Jesus was an apocalyptic teacher. In a lot of ways, he really did believe that the end times were coming. During the Sermon on the Mountain in Matthew, he also says that some of you will never taste death, and then the kingdom will come. And it's interesting because Jesus truly wholeheartedly believed that end times were so near for them. Life was so difficult. John the Baptist just got killed. He was in so much turmoil that he genuinely believed that the end times were near. And a lot of people don't understand that at the time that was a very common belief for ancient Israelites because of how difficult things have been. And 2,000 years later, we're like almost fantasizing about what nations get to have these big duties, these big roles for God's great plan of how he's going to judge the world. And it's gross. The video talks about tensions in the Middle East, and this might be the final chapter of human history, and the Philippines might play a great role in that. That is gross. Stop perpetuating this. Stop perpetuating that the conflicts are in some way okay and normal, because I guess in the Bible, Jesus says that there will be conflict during the end time. It's almost like we're perpetuating conflict. You know what I mean? And to be fair, there is less conflict now than there was back then. So in a lot of ways, Jesus' foretelling of there being less conflict is not actually very true. Sure, there's more destruction that could be done, but if that nuance matters, he could have said so. You know, it would have been nice for him to prophesize nuclear bombs or something, but no. And it's just so weird that we're placing this like, oh my God, because the Philippines is a Christian nation among Buddhists and Muslims, we must be playing an important role in God's plan. And I want to empathize, like I said, with the feeling and the want for Filipinos to be in the global stage and to be involved in international relations. I understand that, because a lot of those opportunities have been taken away from us. A lot of the richness and the beauty of the land has been taken away through colonization. I'm not going to get into it here, but if you know about the colonization of the Philippines, it was 300 years under Spanish rule, in which at the end they just sold us to the US. But it was not a wonderful thing. It wasn't a passing over of Jesus's word. They genuinely saw the Filipinos as uneducated, tribal, weird people, and we're going to give them this and educate them and bring them about this new, better society. And they did it through violence. They took away the language that we had, whatever remnants of our culture. A lot of it we do not have and we cannot piece together. And it's wonderful that Filipinos find beauty within the biblical narrative. But that very same narrative was what made our ancestors suffer. It's what's making us suffer now. And we're still fitting ourselves into these small little holes, small little templates that's in the Bible, when those templates were just written for the ancient Israelites. And it's nice to feel like you belong, especially when you are very faithful and you're very devout. But this is misinformation. None of this could point to the Philippines, you know? And then the sprinkling of justification of the Israeli state, the sprinkling that whoever is with Israel is going to get blessed, and the idea that Filipinos might be playing a bigger role than we can imagine. Why'd you imagine such a small role? And why are we imagining what conflicts and how we're going to be involved in them? it almost seems like people want conflict so that the end times will come. It's very odd.
And honestly, it is really beautiful. I really, really, really enjoyed that. Honestly, guys, thank you for linking this over. I really enjoy things like this when it comes to history and pointing out different views, different perspectives. I enjoy stuff like that because I don't feel like I'm going to have just a set, no, this is wrong and no, this is right, because I don't fully believe that me as a human being, I just know what's right and I just know, this is the truth or this is not. All I know is that God and science and all of these things are just all in one, right? We're all here together and we're all here to understand, and yet at the same time, we're all here to experience the world as what it is, a beautiful, beautiful place in creation.
Vision says that it's beautiful, the different perspectives and the different beliefs, and I do agree with him on that, for sure. Different beliefs and perspectives are beautiful, but they must be layered with truth. They must be underlined with truth, especially when Filipinos have been fed lies for most of our history. And if you look in the comments, it's all Filipinos so happy about Christianity. Bless, God bless. Like I said, sure, wonderful. Your faith is beautiful. Your faith doesn't need to define you. It doesn't need to be what it means to be Filipino. It doesn't need to be that way. Vision says in the beginning that he knows a lot about the Bible because he's from a Christian family. And he says that in the Bible, it makes sense, like this makes sense. Vision, how? I don't know if you mean you know a lot about the Bible, like you know a lot about the stories within the Bible, like you've read it. I don't know if you know any of the historical background behind the Bible and how biblical scholars actually look at it now. But this AI video saying scholars and historians think like this, think like that, they don't. I'm so sorry, but biblical scholars are not looking into the Philippines because they might be this land. They're really not. All this video is trying to do is trying to give Filipinos this false sense of strength, like they're going to be part of God's plan. And so it's actually okay, you're suffering right now. A-okay. You're suffering? You'll be blessed in the afterlife. You'll be blessed. A lot of this has been used to justify Filipinos being under tyrannical rule. And religion has caused a lot of violence. This perpetuation that Filipinos and their faith have to be this intrinsically connected thing. It's in our hearts. It's not. You've just been told that. Vision ends the video off by saying, we're looking at the historical aspects of this. What are the historical aspects of this? Vision, the way that you're thinking about history is not the way ancient Israelites wrote history. Like I said, they're more interested in ideas and emotions and feelings than they were interested in creating a historical reality the way we think of it now. They had no other way of explaining what they would view as things going on around them. They had no way of explaining where mountains came from or different landmarks came from. So they were creating stories in order to better explain it to themselves. That's why the flood story is everywhere when you look at ancient Near East religions. Like Sargon of Akkad also has the Moses thing of being flown down the river, and that was before Moses. And Abraham is believed in by the Abrahamic religions, all equally. We can't give this the facade and the veneer of history. And you are not weighing views by doing this. You're not even giving different views or weighing them in any way. A lot of what is in this video is perpetuating harm against Muslims in this very subtle way of tensions right now. The tensions are the US having conflict with the Middle East, as always, because the US hates Islam, and Israel taking over Palestinians. I'm assuming these are the conflicts, because these are the conflicts that we know of. It's gross. Stop using these biblical views to try and create this grandeur understanding of yourself. Oh my God, we're in the Bible. Oh my God, we're part of God's plan. If that gets you to sleep at night, sure, wonderful. Keep it. You're allowed to believe it. What you're not allowed to do is perpetuate damage and justify violence under the veneer of the Bible, and it's all foretold in it. And Vision, you're nodding your head along with this video, this AI video, just saying these things, barely giving a rebuttal to it, not even looking at the historical facts around what could be behind these things. No, the ancient Israelites aren't thinking about the Philippines. The Philippines didn't exist back then. Were they thinking about the islands? Probably not. They were geographically so far away that it's highly unlikely that Solomon was going over there to trade. And like I said, a lot of what is in the Bible is also looking back at history and venerating their kings. That's what happened with David. That's likely what's happening with Solomon. Like, I hate to break it to you, but the Song of Solomon, not written by Solomon. There are things that biblical scholars believe and historians believe about the Bible, and that is fascinating. When we learn about the real history of these people, the real history of the ancient Israelites, and how it relates to where the people are now, that is beautiful and wonderful. But we need to stop trying to spread this. It's essentially misinformation. We're belittling the actual history of the people who are writing this by trying to apply it with this broad brush, with God's plan and things of that nature. The Old Testament had nothing to do with Jesus's proposed God's plan, because if it did, and if it was 100% just going to be about Jesus, then we would not have however many denominations. If you want to say that you're open and weighing beliefs, you actually have to show yourself weighing beliefs and facts and showing facts about these things. This is lazy. Knowing the Bible doesn't mean you've read it and you sort of know the characters in it. Knowing the Bible means knowing its history, knowing the context that the Bible is in, not the context that you're in looking at it. What context is it actually in? Was it written in? What were the people's beliefs? It's all just very sad to me that we have to give Filipinos this crutch so that we can sleep better at night thinking that our hardships are okay because God has a plan for us. If you're a Filipino, you can make a plan for yourself. You don't have to wait for God's plan. You don't have to wait for heaven. You can take advantage of the here and now. You deserve that much. This is not historical review. This is all biblical conjecture, and it's not even very good. It's all interpretation on stretching the word on interpretation. And if you like the Bible, you should be not okay with this either. You know, you should want to believe in the truth and take the Bible as the Bible is, not what you want it to be. And if your vision, dude, you got to do better. Don't just sit along and nod. Anyways, you're not a bad person if you believe in this, of course not. But you do deserve the truth. And you do deserve to make your own plan and not have to wait for God's plan. Thank you for watching. I hope you understood. I hope you have a great, great rest of your day. Thank you. I hate to break it to you, but anyone in any kind of religion does force a faith. I'm so sorry to break it to you.